She did it slowly. That was the part nobody could explain later. Not a fumble, not a stumble. Slow and deliberate, the way someone does something when they've already decided it doesn't matter. The coffee was hot. He felt it immediately. And she laughed. Not a gasp. Not an apology. A laugh. His name was Eli Wren. 34 years old. He'd flown into Chicago on a Tuesday morning with one carry-on and no agenda except to walk the city alone for a few hours before his next meeting. He did that sometimes. Slipped away from the schedule, the security detail, the calls. Just walked. Just breathed. Just existed like a regular person for as long as he could get away with it. He was sitting at a corner table in a café near the river when it happened. The café was the kind of place that took itself seriously. Dark wood, exposed brick, a chalkboard menu with words like single origin and cold-pressed written in careful handwriting. The kind of place that charged $6 for a coffee and meant it as a statement. Eli didn't mind. He liked the light there. He liked that no one looked at anyone. He was wearing jeans, a gray Henley, and boots that had walked a lot of miles. His jacket was draped over the back of the chair. He had nothing open on the table except a small notebook, and even that he wasn't writing in. He was just sitting. Watching the street through the window the way you do when you're trying to remember what it feels like to be ordinary. Her name was Sarah Voss. She was the kind of beautiful that she'd built into a personality. Cheekbones sharp enough to cut something. Clothes that cost what most people made in a week. A laugh that arrived before anything was funny, because she'd learned early that laughing first made people feel like they were in on it. She came in with a friend, a woman named Tara, and the two of them moved through the space the way certain people move through spaces, like they owned it, or at least like they were auditioning to. Sarah spotted Eli's table before they'd even ordered. Quiet corner, good light, near the window. Exactly what she wanted. She sat down at the table beside him without looking at him. That was deliberate too. People like Eli, the plain jacket, the worn boots, the notebook with nothing written in it, people like that were furniture to her. Necessary maybe, but not interesting. She ordered. She talked to Tara about something that had happened at dinner the night before, a story that required a lot of eye-rolling and the word literally used in ways it wasn't designed for. The coffee came. Tara's oat milk latte. Sarah's espresso with a side of something. Eli's black coffee, which he'd ordered 20 minutes before they arrived, sat still and untouched beside his notebook because he was thinking. He wasn't even looking at her. That might have been part of it. She said something to Tara, low, with a tilt of her chin in Eli's direction. Tara didn't respond. She looked at the table. There was a pause, the kind that happens when a joke doesn't land because the other person has enough decency not to catch it. Sarah picked up her espresso. Then she stood up slightly, just enough, reached across toward the sugar on the shared edge of the tables, and her elbow moved. The coffee went sideways. Not her espresso. The full cup she'd picked up off the server's tray on the way past, the one meant for the table behind her, which she'd set down on the edge of Eli's table without asking. It went directly onto his lap. Hot, full, fast. His breath caught. That was the only sound he made. And she laughed. One clean, bright sound, like it was the funniest thing she'd seen all week. Then she looked at him with the particular expression of someone who has never genuinely apologized in their life and said, "Oh my God, I am so sorry," in a voice that meant neither thing. Eli didn't move. He sat with the heat spreading across his jeans and he looked at her, and his expression was the most unreadable thing in the room. Not anger. Not embarrassment. Something slower. Something that was already filing things away. He picked up his jacket from the back of the chair. He stood up. He looked at her one more time, not the way someone looks when they want a reaction, but the way someone looks when they already have all the information they need. "Have a good morning," he said. And he walked out. Tara watched him go. Something in his posture was wrong for the situation. He didn't hunch. He didn't rush. He moved the way people move when they have somewhere to be and the somewhere doesn't require performance. She looked at Sarah. "That was bad," she said quietly. "He'll survive," Sarah said. She was already looking at her phone. Eli walked 3 blocks, stopped at a crosswalk, and called his assistant. He said 2 sentences. Then he put his phone away and kept walking. He had another 40 minutes before the meeting. He used them. The meeting was in a building on Michigan Avenue that had Eli's name on the lease of 4 floors. He didn't use those floors. He worked from a smaller suite on the 9th floor because he liked the view and because large offices made him feel like he was playing a character. His assistant met him at the door, looked at his jeans, said nothing. She handed him a change of clothes from the bag she always had ready, one of 3 standing instructions he'd given her 5 years ago that had never needed explaining a second time. He changed. He went into the room. There were 11 people in the meeting. 2 of them were investors from New York. 3 were from his board. The rest were lawyers and advisors and one woman named Claire who ran his foundation and who was the only person in most rooms who spoke to him exactly the same way whether they were alone or in front of a crowd. The meeting was about the next 18 months. What they were building, where they were going, which parts of the company were ready to grow and which parts needed to be rethought. Eli listened more than he talked. He wrote things down in his notebook with the same pen he'd had on the cafe table. Nobody mentioned the jeans. Nobody asked. 2 hours later, when the room was clearing, Claire stayed behind. She poured herself a glass of water, sat on the edge of the table, and looked at him the way she always looked at him when she thought something was worth saying. "You okay?" "Fine." "You have that face." "I have a face." "That specific face," she said. "The one where something happened and you're deciding what to do about it." He looked at her. Then he told her about the cafe. Briefly, without drama. Just the facts of it, the way he always told stories, like he was describing weather. Claire was quiet for a moment. Then she said, and nothing. "I left." "But..." He exhaled. "But I made a call." She waited. "The cafe," he said. "I've been looking at it for 2 years. Small chain, good bones, terrible management above the location level. I was going to move on it eventually." He paused. "I moved on it this morning." Claire looked at him for a long time. "Eli. The building is undervalued. The brand has equity it doesn't know what to do with. It's a good acquisition." "Is it?" "Yes." "Is that why you did it?" He didn't answer right away. "It's a good acquisition," he said again. But quieter. Claire nodded slowly, the way she did when she decided not to push something. She picked up her bag, walked toward the door, then stopped. "What are you going to do when you own it?" "Fix it," he said. "It's a good cafe." She left. He stayed in the room alone for a while. Outside, Chicago moved in every direction. He watched it through the window, the river silver and slow below. He thought about the way the coffee had felt. Not the heat of it. The intention behind it. The small, certain cruelty of a person who had decided, without knowing anything, that he didn't matter. He thought about that a lot, actually. Not because it hurt. Because it told him something. He'd spent 15 years building things. Companies, systems, frameworks that moved money and created jobs and changed, in small but real ways, what was possible for people who started with less than he had. He'd done it quietly, without a publicist or a personal brand or a presence on any platform that required a profile photo. He'd done it in plain clothes and ordinary seats and notebooks with mostly empty pages, because he believed, in a way that had never left him since the years when he actually had nothing, that the work was the thing. Not the appearance of the work. And still, some people would always see the jacket first. The boots. The absence of a signal that said important. He wasn't angry about it. He was curious about it. He'd been curious about it for a long time. He picked up his notebook and wrote something down. 3 words. Then he went back to work. Sarah Voss found out on a Thursday. She was having lunch with a colleague from the firm where she worked, corporate consulting, the kind of job that sounded more specific than it was, when her phone lit up with a message from someone she knew at a commercial real estate company. 4 words, "Did you see this?" There was a link. She clicked it. The article was brief. An acquisition announcement, the kind that ran in business sections and got shared in finance newsletters and was mostly only interesting to people who followed that particular industry. But the name of the company being acquired was the name of the café chain. Her café. The one near the river where she went most mornings. And the name of the acquiring company. She read it twice. Then she searched the name. It took 4 minutes of reading before her coffee went cold. Eli Wren. 34. Started his first company at 22 with money he'd saved working construction during the years most people his age were deciding their personalities. Sold it at 26. Started 2 more. Lost 1. Built it back differently. By 30 he was running an investment firm that didn't have a website because it didn't need one. The kind of quiet money that doesn't announce itself because it doesn't have to. There were 3 photographs of him in the results. In all of them, he was wearing ordinary clothes. In one, taken at some kind of industry event 3 years ago, he was standing in a group of people who looked, by their posture and their suits, like they were very aware of being photographed. He was the only one looking somewhere else. She stared at that one for a long time. Her colleague said her name twice before she looked up. "Sorry," she said. She stopped. There was no version of the sentence that worked. She put her phone face down on the table. Later, she would tell the story sometimes. Not the real version. A smoothed-out version where she was less certain about the tilt of her hand, where the laugh became a nervous reaction, where the whole thing was softer and smaller and more accidental than it was. People would nod and say things like, "You had no way of knowing," and, "Anyone could have made the same mistake." And she would agree with them. But she knew. She knew because she remembered the way he'd looked at her when he stood up. Not like someone who was humiliated. Like someone who had just learned something. And she remembered, very clearly, that she had not looked like that at all. Kylie, in the sample story that was the inspiration for this one, said it on the way out. Out loud, when it was easier not to. That's the line that stays. Not the reveal in the corridor. Not the suits, or the separation paperwork, or even the speech at the company event. Just that. One person, in an ordinary moment, deciding that easy wasn't the point. Most of us will never have the corridor. We'll never stand in front of a room and say, "This is what character looks like, watch it be rewarded." Most moments aren't like that. Most moments are small and unwitnessed and gone before anyone can name them. The coffee. The water that came without being asked for. The word said once when the easier thing was silence. Those are the moments that build a person. Not the big ones. The small ones, stacked up over a life, becoming a kind of architecture you don't see until you're inside it. Eli Wren kept the napkin from that flight. He kept it because it reminded him that the most important information about a person almost never comes packaged the way you'd expect. He still flies coach sometimes. Still walks cities alone. Still sits in corner tables with a notebook and nothing written in it, watching the street, thinking about what it means to build something that matters. The people who treat you right when they think you're nobody. Those are the only people worth knowing. And the ones who don't. They already told you everything.